Today I want to talk about section 6.1, which is solving systems by graphing. So when we are asked to solve by graphing, we've got several steps. So here are the steps. We want to identify the slope, which we call M, and the Y-intercept, which we call B. So if we have two different lines, we're going to do that 2 times. Then what we want to do to actually graph each of those lines is we first want to plot the y-intercept, and then by looking at the slope, we're going to move in that direction to get to the next point. So when you talk slope, you always look at the number on top and move up and down first. Then you look at the number on the bottom and you move left and right. We need to do this so we have a total of 3 points. Then we'll draw a line through those 3 points and put arrows to show that the line continues. And then once we have both of those lines on the same graph, what we need to do is we need to look to see where do those lines intersect, because that ordered pair is the solution. So let's use this information and let's start graphing. So here I want us to graph this system. We've got y equals x plus 2 and y equals negative 2 over 3x minus 3. So if we start with the first line, so it's the line on the top. I'll do it in blue here. Once again, we want to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So remember, this is our basic formula. When it says y equals, the m is connected to the x, and then the b is the number that is not. If I look at that first equation, if you do not see a number in front of x, then it's really the number 1. I want to think about slope as a fraction. So you can always take that number and put it over 1, and there's my slope. The number 2 is going to represent the value for b. Another way to think of this is because it's what we call a y-intercept, as an ordered pair, it goes 0 and then that number. Because on the graph, notice that we want the y-axis to move up and down. That's where my y-intercept is going to be. Okay, so let's actually graph this line first. So like it said, I want to start at the y-intercept, so 0, 2. So on that y-axis, I want to go up to positive 2, and I'm going to plot my point. And there's my first of at least 3 points on that line. So then the reason why I wanted to make m a fraction is because I always want to look at the top number, and that tells me if I'm moving up and down, and then the number on the bottom tells me if I'm moving left and right. So from this point 2, I'm going to go up 1, and then I'm going to go 1 to the right, because when you move up, it's positive, and when you move to the right, it's positive. And then I'm going to plot my point. And I can keep doing that. Go up, and then to the right 1. And even though I've got these 3 points, it might be a good idea to continue going through that so we have the entire graph filled. And that way we can get a more accurate looking picture. Same idea, though, we can actually do it in the opposite direction. Instead of going up and to the right, from that starting point at 2, we could go down, but then we'd have to go to the left. Notice that it's still a point that's on this line. So down and to the left, down and to the left. Okay, the more points you have, the more accurate your final picture will be, because we do want to take a nice straight edge, so something like your ID or a ruler, and you want to draw a nice straight line through all of those points and put arrows on either side. You need the line to be super straight because the whole point is we're going to connect 2 lines and see where they intersect. And if your line is messed up where it's just off a tiny bit, it's going to throw off your entire answer. So then line 2 is down here at the bottom. I'll do it in red. Okay, so once again, I want to identify the slope, which is the number that's connected to x. So notice how there's a negative out in front. You can either keep the negative with the 2 and write it as negative 2 over 3, or you can write it with that in the denominator, and you could do 2 over negative 3. Let me explain the arrows. Because that 2 is negative, I want to move down. With the 3 being positive, I want to move to the right. If I had written it the other way, 2 is positive, so I'd go up, and then 3 is negative, so I would go down. The number that is not connected to x, be very careful, there is a negative sign with it. So -3 is that value. Another way you can write it as an ordered pair would be 0, -3. So remember, to graph this line, you start at that 0, -3. So down here on the y, there's my point. I'm going to show with both different slopes. So I'm going to start with this -2 over 3. So -2 means I move down 2, and then 3 means I move over 3 to the right, and there's my point. So from that new point, I could go down 2, and then 3 to the right, down 2, 3 to the right, and then I've run out of room to go any further. If I had used the second option, from this point at -3, I'd go up 2, and then 1, 2, 3 to the left. Up 2, 1, 2, 3 to the left. Up 2, 3 to the left. Okay? Notice that now I have enough points where I can nicely draw and connect those. Sorry, my computer is not letting me do this. Oh. There we go. So I can connect those points, put arrows on either end. And so there are my 2 lines. And then remember, what I want is where they intersect. So it looks like they intersect right here. I need to write that answer as an ordered pair, which means there's parentheses around it. You do the x value first in an ordered pair, and then you do the y value second. So on the x-axis, notice that I had to move over to -3. Then I had to move down to the -1. So -3, -1 is my solution. And there's my answer. Let's try another one. Let's graph this. We've got y equals -2x plus 1. So I'm going to take that top line and let's identify my slope and my y-intercept. So once again, the m is connected to the x, and then the b is the number that's by itself. Because I see -2, I can make it a fraction. I can always put a number over 1. So there is my slope. My y-intercept is the number not connected, so it's 1. Once again, I can think of it as an ordered pair. It's always 0, that number. So let's plot that stuff. So I start with the y-intercept, so that's the 1. So on the y-axis, I go up to 1, plot my point. Because -2 means I'd move down and 1 means I move to the right, let's follow that pattern. So from this point, I go down 2 and then 1 to the right, plot my point. Down 2, 1 to the right, down 2, 1 to the right. Keep going and going and going, and then I've run out of room. Just so I can once again have a nice accurate line, I could actually do the opposite. I could think of the 2 as positive, but then the 1 would be negative, so I could keep that number negative. If 2 is positive, I move up, and if 1 is negative, I'm moving to the left. So from that starting point at 1, I could go up 2, but then I'd move 1 to the left, up 2, 1 to the left, up 2, 1 to the left, and so on until I've run out of room. But now I know that I have nice enough points where I can connect them and form that nice straight line. Putting arrows on either side, there is my first line. So looking at the bottom line, y equals -1/2 x minus 2. My slope is going to be the m, so the negative can go with the 1, or it can go with the 2. Notice that if it goes with the 1, it goes down. 2 to the right would be a positive. If I do it the other way, the 1 goes up, but then since the 2 is negative, it go to the left. Once again, careful with the signs that are in front. There's a negative in front of that 2, so -2, or my ordered pair would be 0, -2 is my y-intercept. So that's the point I start with. So -2 is down here. If I follow the first one, where -1 is on the top and 2 is on the bottom, I go down 1 and then 2 to the right, down 1, 2 to the right, down 1, 2 to the right. Okay, I can do that as many times as I need. If I use the second option where 1 is positive and 2 is negative, I would go 1 up and then 2 to the left. 1 up, 2 to the left. All right, and then I can connect all of those points to draw a nice straight line with arrows. And then my final answer is going to be where those two intersect. So I need to name that ordered pair. Ordered pair has parentheses. We always start with the value for x. So notice how that's over at positive 2. And then my y value is down at negative 3. So 2, negative 3 would be my solution. All right, I know it says checkpoint. Let's just do this one more time. So if I know that y equals mx plus b, maybe pause the video and see if you can come up with an answer. All right, so let's go through this. Top line here, if I see a negative, I can think of it as negative 1 over 1, or I can think of it as 1 over negative 1. Negative moves down, positive moves to the right. Or I could do 1, which goes up, and negative 1 goes to the left. Notice how the number in front is a negative 3 there. So 0, negative 3 is my y-intercept. On the y-axis, that's what I'm plotting first. I can go down 1 and then 1 to the right. That would be these points. Or from that point of negative 3, I could go up 1, but then I'd have to go 1 to the left. Once again, the more points you have, the more accurate your graph will actually look. So if I connect all of those points, there's my first line. If I look at the second line, my slope is going to be 1/2. So I would go up and to the right. Looking at the number not connected, that's negative 6. So 0, negative 6 is the starting point, which is down here. So going up 1 and then 2 to the right, up 1, 2 to the right, up 1, 2 to the right. That is enough information that I can see exactly where they're going to intersect. So that's all I need to figure out my final answer. So my final answer is this ordered pair. Ordered pair is written in parentheses. My x value, because that goes first, would be positive 2. But then notice that my y value would be negative 5. And there is my solution.